Well, hello everyone, and welcome back. It is your favorite Jackson, obviously, uh, and I am not doing a debate today, so you have that to not look forward to. Joining me is my host and co-host Peter, aka the Gonna Go For It.
Good evening, good morning, wherever you may be.
Welcome,
I
willkommen.
think I covered the people in chat so far with good evening, good morning. Not sure, but I think so.
Did you? Ah. And we also have one of my editors, Nestlig. Welcome, welcome.
Oh, hello, hello.
Uh, we, in case anyone is unaware, Nestling and I just completed the Lamprey's Tale, and that I set it to upload it at 9 a.m. this morning for my time. Um, and that was a very interesting script. I really enjoyed that. I enjoyed writing it, making it. That I thought it was a lot of fun. What do you think, Nestle?
I also have very fun with it because there's a lot of very interesting information regarding the evolution of jawed vertebrates, and also, of course, the the remaining jawless vertebrates. And yeah, but one problem I had with was like, why isn't there a cartilaginous tail, like one cartilaginous species, so we can split the video into two at least? But we
Email
had to
Richard
combine
Dawkins.
everything. Yes, we
You'll
had to
have to.
combine everything in one video.
Yeah, send Richard Dawkins a letter or Yan Wong, one of them, and maybe they'll get back to you with a reason. But yeah, they're let's see, we
So many
covered.
Collectians. Why didn't you pick anyone, any of them?
True, yeah,
Yeah.
because like in this tale, so basically we covered the stingrays. Thank goodness, in a different tale because it would have added another like 8 to 10 minutes
Yeah.
on this one. We covered the evolution of stingrays in the flounder's tale because we spent the whole thing talking about flatfish. And
And
so
we also skimmed a bit through over the modern sharks. Like we mentioned few species of modern sharks, but of course, going over the exact phylogeny of the modern sharks would add at least 10 more minutes to the
yeah,
video. Yeah,
yeah. At some point, it's like we just have to kind of like streamline
yeah,
it and be like, okay, here's kind of the big important picture, and then we got to move on.
yeah,
So
yeah.
yeah, let's say we talk about the evolution of chondrichthyans broadly. We talked about the evolution of the jaw, the evolution of the spiracle, the evolution of like the shared origin of scales and teeth, because our teeth are derivatives of scales, which are
Hmm.
themselves like derived from the mesoderm of the dermis. So like basically everything we talk about in this video it's not new. Nothing is new, right? It's all
Hmm.
things that are being repurposed because that's what evolution is all about. It's about repurposing things that you already have. Scales get repurposed into teeth, and additionally, along the scale evolution, some scales went from being these heavy, bulky things that provided lots of protection to being a lot more thinner and streamlined, which allowed for more maneuverability. But when you do that, you open yourself up to parasites, which is where the lampreys came in.
Hmm.
So even though you can swim faster now and swim more easily, it takes less energy to swim. You can get attacked by parasites. So it's everything's is a trade off. It's give and take, and then the tail itself is what are the genetics underpinning that? We use the case study, the very very well known evolution of hemoglobin and its relatives like cytoglobin and neuroglobin, things like that, and
Yeah.
myoglobin. So yeah,
Yeah,
it's
I
super
also
cool.
did like I also learned something new from you. Like I did not know that the blood of lampreys and hagfish, they didn't like they used a globin but not hemoglobin. A
Yeah,
different group
yeah, they
of
use
globin.
cytoglobin.
Yes.
Yeah, which is super weird. So basically, for us, for anyone who's not aware, we don't use cytoglobin for for oxygen transport. It's basically used to like prevent hypoxia in some
Mhm.
of our tissues. But lampreys and hagfish, they use cytoglobin or their version of it for oxygen transport, which is super cool. So they're using a thing that we both share. They're just using it for a different purpose, which is acceptation. That's you're taking something that already exists and modifying it for a new purpose. So
And if I also remember correctly, like I may be mistaken, but if I remember correctly, if you go back even further, like even I think even before animals, when you look at again, I may not be sure. Either just before animals or just at the base of like a Eumetozoa or something like that, like very, very ancient, like over 500 million years, probably. You will see that like these globin genes are not involved in transport oxygen; they are involved in protection against oxygen.
Yeah,
because oxygen is mostly poisonous at the biochemistry
Right.
level. Like
all the reactive oxygen species. Yeah.
right, yeah.
Yeah, so it was fun. It was really neat script. I really enjoyed that one. The next one is going to be fun too. So I went back and I looked because I was like, wow, this was a long one. It turns out that was the longest script so far, and it really wasn't even the one that in which we covered, the most groups kind of in one go, right? Because we covered Boreoeutheria kind of in one script. That was the hippo's tail. We were just kind of like, oh, there it is,
Yep.
Or sorry, the Laurasiatheres. Sorry, we covered Laurasiatheria kind of in one script. We're just like, okay, here it is, the hippo's tail. Which the hippo's tail was very fun. I enjoyed that one because we talked about Anthers and Genesis making some weird secret phylogeny that they were like, trust us, bro. Our phylogeny said it's good, So, you remember that? Like they didn't list the sequences they use. They didn't say what methodology they used. It was like nothing. There was nothing there. There was just like,
you had to be like they gave like a series of like 7 citations, and you had to figure out what they did from those citations, basically. Yeah.
Right, because none of them were like the materials and methods. It was like a discussion of like different types of methods or something. It was very weird. It was like, what? Huh? How does this relate? Yeah, it was weird, but that one was fun. Let's see. In the live chat, we have Mr. Cliff, Brian Stevens, Vandalia 1998, Icarus, Dragon Spartan 90 Official, Ant Jair, Majestic Peebeck, The Unlucky Legume. Welcome, everybody. Glad to have you.
Yeah.
So,
but it was a good day for people who are subscribed to the correct channels, because you came out with the with this tale, and then Arn Ra came out with the what was basically the manatee.
Oh, the elephant evolution.
Manatee and elephant tail. But he left one species out. Manateus christianus. I didn't see that one.
The what?
The Manateus christianus.
What is that?
Otherwise known as Brett Keane, the manatee.
Oh, so, I saw him. You know what, Peter? I had never interacted with him. I ran into him on Twitter, and after like 3 exchanges, I think I blocked him. Because he was like, atheists are mentally challenged or something like that.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.
If you ever run into him on YouTube, be sure to check out his channel, because it could be that you're talking to me. If you pay attention that YouTube is giving out handles, you should secure your handle. If you don't, then anyone can grab it. So I did.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't have any time. Anytime a creationist comes into my chat, or maybe they're not necessarily creationists. Anytime anyone comes in to my chat with stuff to the effect of like atheists are all like degenerates, they like eat children or whatever, I just am instantly like, all right, goodbye, you're not worth my time.
Yeah.
And he wasn't the first one to do that. There was another guy who also recently did that. I don't even remember who it was on Twitter, but they just, it's like, you're not worth my time if you do it. Oh, I know who it was. It was the guy that Robert Groen tried like coming back with, because like after we explained to him how he doesn't understand evolution for 2 hours, he went on Twitter to find somebody who would join him to argue with Dapper and me, and this dude was just like, "Oh yeah, atheists are all fat, lazy slobs," or something like that. And I was like, "No, he's not coming on. I don't care.
Yeah.
Not interested. Thanks." So, I mean, in the what 8 years now that I've been on YouTube, I have never, as far as I'm aware, like called young Earth creationists like lazy slobs or anything like that.
No.
As far as I'm aware, like I don't come out and try to say like, oh, they're all a bunch of racists or something. As far as I know, I don't understand what the appeal of doing that is. It doesn't get.
I don't get that. So I do at times insult people that respond to me,
Sure.
but only after they start insulting me. And even then, I'll give them time to respond and say, well, listen, this is supposed to be a cordial conversation. Do you really need things like that? And if they keep on, yeah, okay, then I'll mirror their behavior and start doing the same thing. But otherwise, I think it's a conversation stopper. If you start insulting your opponent, that's a sure sign that you've lost the conversation, that you have no more arguments to bring up. Because that's it.
I do also I think I do also tailor my responses. Like, so if Frank Turek says, something stupid, I may just call him an idiot because I know he's not looking at his Twitter. He doesn't post on Twitter. It's someone posting for him. So if I just say you're an idiot to him on Twitter, he's not reading it. He's not interacting with this. And I don't think anyone ever looks at my tweets to Frank Turek and thinks, wow, I'm going to completely reevaluate my outlook on life because I saw this tweet. No one's doing that. Come on.
The problem with people like Turek is that they like to strawman our position, whatever that may be, whether it's on science or whether it's on being an atheist. He only uses a straw man. So yeah, that's one of few people that I would call an idiot, because if by now you haven't learned from the people that you've debated that you need to ask them first what their position is and then respond to it. I have no time for you. Oh, Anger said, I need to tell you how to pronounce Anger.
Anger? What did I say?
I think you said Anger or something.
Anger. My bad. I apologize. Yeah, no, Turek is, I mean, he's not really worth anyone's time at this point. I mean, he's just an apologist. He's just a run-of-the-mill conservative apologist. Like, that's all he is. He's not even really interesting at this point, I don't think.
He's an echo chamber apologist because he won't debate other people anymore.
Oh, the unlucky legume just became a bacteria member. Well, thank you. And also we have Hoosier Buddy who's in there. Hello, Investifreya, welcome. Yeah, like I've seen people say on Twitter, and DM, the first cell had to find a wife wing.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I lost it. I lost the thread. People have said on Twitter, whenever I see posts about Frank Turek, and I'm like, yeah, he's an idiot, and they go, well, why don't you debate him? To which my response is always, and if you're watching, it is still right now, hey, if you have his email and you want to set up a conversation between us, happy to do it. Would love to talk to him. I think it'd be a lot of fun. Bring him on. Or if you want me to go on, I don't know, some neutral platform and talk to him, sure, I'll do that too. I don't care. It doesn't matter to me.
I just had a response from what I think is a young Earth creationist, a female apologist, which, well, we do know of one, although I wouldn't even call her an apologist because she's just
Bread of Life.
No, the creature from University of Tampa.
Oh, S.J. Thomason. Yeah.
Didn't want to say her name. Okay, never mind.
Okay, well, we just can't say it 3 times. That's what it is.
People want to know all about her, there's this guy on YouTube called Sir Sick. Go over there and watch his latest video. It's brilliant. Just saying.
Okay.
But so she responded to me on Twitter that she's open for a conversation. So obviously I'm going to say, hey, if you want to talk about evolution, I know this guy who talk about that. So we'll see.
Speaking of having conversations with people, if you guys didn't tune in last week, you really should, because we had our very first open mic night for Young Earth Creationists. So we popped the cherry on that one.
Yes. And you scored fun. And you scored 2 more guests on the first time than Arn Ra did.
Yeah, we got 2. Yeah, that was pretty cool. I was worried because we basically didn't get them till the day before, or like the day of, something like that. Like we went the whole week. It's really funny because there are a bunch of creationists on Twitter who comment on every single post I make.
Mm-hmm.
And then suddenly they were silent.
Yes.
Because I posted this tweet that said, twice actually. Twice I posted a tweet that said, hey, if you want to come talk to me about evolution, happy to have you.
Mm-hmm.
Whoosh, that sound is them running out of the room. Yeah, they all ran. Hit the like, exactly. So yeah, so they all ran away. But we got 2 people on. We had some interesting conversations. We had a guy who Nestle had to explain the concept of entropy to. That was fun. And then the first guy
for a week.
For a week, yeah. Nestle and him argued for like a week on.
Not for a week. Like the conversation went on until like last Sunday, and then he had a question to me. I tried to explain it in simple terms, but his question made the simple concept more difficult to explain, and he insisted that I had to answer his question. So all right, so since you give me no choice, I have to answer your difficult question. So don't complain about me making things more difficult because your question is difficult. So anyway, I answered it, and he says, all right, I will have to review your answer when I have time to review it. And then that was last Sunday, basically. Last Sunday, nothing yet. Yeah.
In all fairness, you did have 2 decent conversations. There were good guests to have.
Yeah. I'm not saying he's annoying.
No. Which is always scary if you have an open mic night, because usually you'll get a troll who wants to make a name for themselves, and that didn't happen, which is pretty cool.
It could
actually,
be because I'm too small. I'm too small of a channel. That could be the case.
There was one moment that irked me. Like we were having a conversation in how do you call it again on Twitter? The
DM.
Right? DMs. Yes, we were having a conversation in DMs, but there was one point. I think he thought he had a gotcha against me. So he went to public Twitter saying like, "Oh, evolutionists can't do physics." For like that irked me a bit because of that.
Yeah.
So like going off on Twitter in public, stating like, "Yeah, oh,
which is funny,
yeah."
Because like he couldn't argue with the points that we were putting to him. He had to say, no, we have to redefine the concept of entropy for me to argue against it, which was amazing. Like, if you have to redefine the term, right? Yeah, like, oh, I can't argue against the actual definition, so I have to make up a new definition, then I can argue against that. Like,
let's talk about how cars are unstable because they're 2-wheeled vehicles with a handlebar. That doesn't work that way. It doesn't.
Yeah. Anyway, I guess we should get to the video because we're 20 minutes in now.
Yes.
So we're gonna finish up the reading is hard with the Institute for Creation Research, the 2 papers that we've seen before, and we're gonna listen to them. Probably not, or continue to not talk about them because they came on and talk about the papers. But so far, they haven't talked about the papers at all. We're
haven't yet.
We're over halfway through.
No. We're not. We're close to halfway in.
We're halfway through. Okay.
We're about 20 minutes in on a 47-minute video, I think.
But like at this point, 20 minutes into their video, which is just about these papers, they have like really not talked about the papers. So,
no. Well, anyway, maybe they will today.
Maybe they will.
We'll see. Let's jump in.
Like you said, sometimes there's a huge difference between someone that really does want to have a conversation and just isn't familiar with it
It's muted.
versus someone who just wants to pick a fight.
Muted.
And frankly, we get
Yep,
a
muted.
lot of those. Just kind of looking, well, what about this and what about that?
There it is.
And we actually have articles about that on our website, but it's clear from the way they're asking the questions that they're just trying to poke holes in the.
Real quick, the people could hear it. You couldn't hear it, but
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, my bad.
yeah, no problem.
I mean, I
It's-
can't do lip reading very well yet.
No,
I'm
it's-
still working on it.
It would help if we're reviewing the video that you can actually hear it, because that'll help. Okay.
Worldview, and it's really interesting to me that they accuse us of being emotional when, like you said, theirs is a very emotionally held worldview, and there's
Oh,
not
I'm
evidence
sorry,
to back
pause.
that up.
Pause for a
It's
second.
all-
I totally forgot to introduce again the dude, the guy, the apologist that they're interviewing, is like a holistic medicine quack. He basically like has fake like dietary supplements and stuff that he wants you to take in place of like actual medicine. And the kid sitting next to him is his son, and then the two on the left side are the actual like interviewers. So I just forgot to say that. Forgot to point out that not only is he stupid, he like doesn't know anything about young Earth creationism, or he doesn't know anything about evolution because he's a young Earth creationist. But also, he's putting people's lives at risk by doing his holistic medicine nonsense. So
In-
just
In all
wanted
fairness,
to remind everyone.
in all fairness, Jackson, he could have been a breatharian, and he isn't. I mean,
That's true. I think, you know, if someone's going to do breatharianism, they just need to commit. Like, come on, you can't do this
yeah.
halfway.
Well,
You just got to commit to the bit.
Have you seen how raw Matt looks after being a breatharian for a year? I mean, it hasn't done him a ton of good.
Didn't he
It's
also say he ate like raw honey for years or something like that?
raw honey. What on earth is raw honey?
I thought he said he like subsisted off of raw honey
Oh,
for
it's-
years also or something.
I think so, like some types of honey are like pasteurized. I think he's referring to that. So unpasteurized is unpasteurized.
Nestle, now you ruin it for me, because I really had this mental image of him sucking it off of bees. I mean,
Anyways,
let's continue.
all emotional because they don't like the implications of having a creator.
Yeah. Speaking
you
of
can't make that
those
argument against Francis
studies, let's
Collins, though.
pull it back a little bit. Did you have anything else to say about the mitochondria study?
I think that's
Okay.
mainly it. Yeah.
Okay. Well, let's go into that second study. I have something with E. coli, which I know has been used as a like a hallmark of evolution for a while. Can you talk to us about that?
Well, yeah. So the other study often I bring up in my conversations with people is the first one we talked about, the largest DNA study. The second one I talk to people about, and I point out to them, it's the longest.
Pause. Okay, so again, just for reference, it is not the largest DNA study because they don't tell you what even sequences they use in the study, as Zach Hancock pointed out last time. The paper, the stupid oh shoot, I can't remember. The one that's like where they say like 90% of species share a mitochondrial ancestor within the last like 100,000 years. They don't actually tell you what sequences they use, so we have no idea. Now, like in theory, that's not crazy. You know, that's not a crazy idea, but it's the materials and methods like basically don't exist, which is really weird for a technical paper. Anyway, I just also wanted to clarify that. I forgot to point that out also. We can keep going.
Study on evolution. And it's a study done by Professor Richard Lenski. And essentially did, starting about 35 years ago, he started with 12 flasks of E. coli bacteria. And then you're basically putting a substrate in, feeding them. They reproduce about 6 to 7 generations a day.
Oh, wow.
So
That's
it's
crazy.
kind of a way
Pretty rapid.
he's trying to look at like
amazing.
evolution and like real life time. So he's been doing this for years, looking to see what changes, and he at some point started tracking, changes in some of the DNA and mutations and things like that.
No, it
as
wasn't
they
at
refer
some
to
point.
them,
He's
some of the changes
always
in the
done that.
fitness and
That
all
has always been
But
part of it.
basically, what it comes down to is this. we're at about 75,000 generations, with
Okay.
A lot.
bacteria. Now remember, that's
a lot.
bacteria, that's E. coli.
Yeah.
And in human
So
years, it's like a few million years. So when I point this out to people, the longest study done on evolution, still ongoing. Matter of fact, now Professor Lenski is passing it on to another fellow at another university, and to keep it going. But what have we found? What have we found? Well, what
have
we
we found?
found again is microevolution, no macroevolution. In other words, the outcome is we still have E. coli bacteria. We don't even have a different type of
And-
bacteria. We don't have Staphylococcus.
All right, let's pause.
We don't have streptococcus.
Let's pause. Okay. Again, this is so nonsense. I mean, I'm sure everyone in my audience can see how that's a frankly moronic response. I'm not gonna sugarcoat it and be nice. That's a stupid thing to say. Because what this indicates is that he just simply doesn't understand what evolution is. He doesn't understand what monophyly is. He doesn't understand what he probably doesn't understand what micro and macroevolution are. I guess depending on how you define the bacteria in this, it may or may not be the case that macroevolution occurred. Because remember, microevolution is genetic change below the level of species, while macroevolution is genetic change at or above the level of species, which includes speciation. So technically, he could be right. It could be the case. There has been debate over whether the CIT plus mutants, which are the ones who develop the ability to metabolize citrate under aerobic conditions by duplicating a segment of their genome, there's been debate whether they should be considered their own species or not. I think Lenski was in favor of the idea, but most other bacteriologists are kind of like, nah. And one of the arguments for why they shouldn't is like they're really not that different genetically from the other members of this species. So bacteria, the way that like bacterial species work is like kind of different from how species work for like say animals, for instance, because animals are sexual reproducers, and so you can figure out in part like by the morphology, by whether two populations are able to interbreed, whether they count as the same species. You can still use morphology, of course, and like biochemical pathways to do that with bacteria, but obviously since all bacteria are asexual, you can't really use interbreeding as a metric for determining species. So instead, you have to look at like their niche, like what is the niche that they occupy, and what you find is that typically different species of bacteria within a genus will occupy different niches. So they're like if all the species of like say Staphylococcus, for instance, are infectious, one species will infect like the nose, one will infect the throat, one will infect the stomach. I don't know. Which is obviously
there's also a problem with that because there are strains of E. coli that are infectious and some strains are not infectious. Like it gets very like prokaryotes. I'm convinced like if we say that species are like real things, I think it's safe to say that species cannot exist in prokaryotes because it's so difficult to argue that you can have a species in prokaryotes.
Yeah, and I mean, yeah, exactly. And so it's like, and obviously these aren't going to turn into the E. coli are not going to turn into a genus that already exists and is like in a completely separate group. Like that's just not how evolution works. Like just fundamentally, it's a bit like saying, we didn't observe humans turning into chimpanzees. Well, yeah, there are cousins. They're like, what does that even mean? It's just silly. It's ludicrous to make this kind of comparison. I also really don't like that analogy that keeps getting made with like, yes, wandering traveler, bacteria don't get married and do the sex. They don't. Sorry. They're actually all they're all Marys. They all just do virgin birth, actually. So every bacteria is both Mary and Jesus at the same time. That's how it works. I don't make the rules. It's just how it is. Anyway, so derailed. like everything he said was nonsense. Like that was a terrible segue, or terrible answer to the question of, well, what did the study find? Oh, well, it just found microevolution. Well, what it found was gene duplicate. Well, that was later. There were lots of different point mutations that resulted in increased fitness in these populations. So the cells got larger. I can't remember everything that happened, but like cells getting larger was one of them. I think they reproduced faster was also one of the things on there, if I remember correctly. There were a few other things, a few of the, like major big ones kind of early on. And then the interesting thing was that gene duplication that conferred them the novel phenotype actually was not beneficial enough early on. So it got, like, if it had occurred, it would have gotten outcompeted by the other fitness gains, like larger cell size and faster reproduction, which is kind of interesting. So it's like a point for contingency in evolution rather than the inevitable evolution is like unidirectional, that kind of thing. So that's really cool. There's a lot of really cool stuff that came out of this, both in terms of learning about like the evolution of genetics in bacterial populations over long periods of time, like the ability to teach students about like long-term evolution experiments. There was a lot of really cool stuff that came out of it. And just trying to summarize it as, well, it was just microevolution. Like, does it no justice, obviously.
Basically, they are saying like, oh, did you make a human in the lab? No? All right, then. That's basically,
yeah, that's exactly what they did. That it didn't turn into a goat, so I guess it's not evolution. Durr. Okay. Anyway.
Cockeye. We don't have viruses. We don't have fungi.
What? Doing it again. He just keeps going with it. Okay.
Did he just say cockeye to you? Did you not
Staphylococci. Or
okay.
streptococci. One of those.
Okay, never mind.
So is he basically saying why didn't they use any other organisms? Well, E. coli is a very well known.
No, he's saying why didn't E. coli turn into these other organisms?
This is even worse.
Yeah, he said because he said it didn't turn into Staphylococcus, didn't turn into streptococci or fungi, or that's why I was like, yeah, so stupid, so stupid.
We don't have plants. We don't have. We have the same thing we started.
We don't have plants.
In the E. coli population, he said that the E. coli didn't turn into plants.
Yes, we don't have plants.
Because that's how that works.
Yes, because if you wait long enough and pray hard enough, you'll get a plant. It's 2020.
It's the same for the heat problem. It's the same, for the creationist answer to the heat problem, right? If they just wait long enough and pray hard enough, the answer will reveal itself, I guess. So, anyway.
After 75,000 generations, we have E. coli bacteria. Now, it's interesting to read some of the papers and stuff Lenski's been involved with. He likes to refer to it as evolution. It is called the long-term evolution experiment. Okay,
which it is.
Again, how do you define evolution? So he talks about, at one point, what happened was E. coli bacteria in the presence of oxygen can't use citrate as an energy substance. In these flasks, they give them glucose, a type of sugar, right, for energy. But there was a little bit of citrate in the medium they use as a preserve and all that. And so one line of the E. coli bacteria started using citrate as an energy source, not in the presence of oxygen. And Lenski kind of jumped the gun and said, wow, look, we have evolution.
Which it is.
In action here. Here's a sign of evolution, some major changes happening.
It sounds like adaptation.
It does.
Thank you.
It sounds like continuous environmental tracking.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, actually,
environmental tracking.
Pause. Let's talk about that. Let's dig into that for a second, because that's another really stupid creationist argument. It's so nonsense. The funny thing about continuous environmental tracking is it got killed 80 years ago, and they came up with the concept within the last 10 years. It's so funny how wrong this is. Well, anyway, first of all, yes, he's right. Let's define evolution. Let's talk about what evolution means. Generally speaking, evolution has been defined since Darwin as descent with modification. Okay, that's fine. All right. So descent, as in reproduction, or giving rise to new generations. So multiple generations over years, and they're passing down modifications. So each offspring is modified relative to its ancestor. Okay, and then these modifications spread throughout the population. Well, okay, if we use that definition, does this count as evolution? Yes, because it's a novel phenotype that didn't exist previously, but now as a result of genetic changes, it exists and then spread through the population because it was beneficial. So, yes, it is an adaptation, and adaptations are part of evolution, right? Like they are a part of evolution. You get evolution that, or you use the process of evolution that gives rise to adaptations. You have variations, which accrue, and then natural selection occurs, which gives rise to these adaptations. Like that's a process of evolution. Now you can say, now they of course like to define these as like, well, heredity isn't on its own evolution. Variation on its own isn't evolution. Natural selection on its own isn't evolution. That's true. Each of those things is true in isolation. Natural selection is not itself evolution. But having variation, then those being passed on transgenerationally, and those being subject to natural selection, that together, that whole process is evolution. Another way that the way that Theodosius Dobzhansky famously defined evolution is a change in allele frequencies in a population over generations. Again, this is a novel allele. It arose via gene duplication. So we have a novel allele, and then it spread to fixation in the population. We know that it went to fixation. So again, but either definition you want to use, it's evolution. If you want to come up with another definition, go ahead. But like these are the two most common definitions of evolution, and they're both work. Continuous environmental tracking. So for anyone who's blissfully uninitiated, that's the idea that organisms change to meet their environments. Basically, they change with environmental changes. So in a sort of sense, this happens like you can have the environment inflict changes on organisms that cause like developmental changes. Like you can have epigenetic changes like that. That's fine. We're all aware of these things. But that's not really what they mean when they say continuous environmental tracking. What they're proposing is that the environment is causing mutations to happen that cause adaptations. Now, not mutations in the sense that like you have like, gamma rays in the environment and that causes like a dimer in your nucleotides and that's, carcinogenic or something. What they mean is like organisms maybe unconsciously, they're not doing it consciously, but they unconsciously like adapt their nucleotides to in conjunction with the changes in their environment. And there's like zero evidence to support this idea. Now, like I said, this idea was killed like 80 years ago by the Luria-Delbruck experiment. So basically what these two researchers did was they took, I believe it was E. coli actually, they took these populations of E. coli and subjected them to selection pressures. I think it was like they selected them to like bacteriophages or something like that. And what they found was that the populations did not all go to fixation in terms of adaptations against the bacteriophages. It was like random. And the reason is mutations have a degree of randomness. They're stochastic, they're probabilistic. So a certain proportion of the populations of E. coli developed adaptations against the bacteriophages that went to fixation, but not all of them did. If it were the case that the introduction of the bacteriophages caused the adaptations, then we would expect 100% of the E. coli populations to develop mutations that then go to fixation.
Or at least it's the same rate, at least, yeah.
Yeah, and that simply wasn't the case. And because it isn't the case, this idea is dead. And it's been long dead. one of my favorite ones actually went on. I was on Orange Channel. It was what was that video called where it was like a girl arguing with a museum docent? You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
The docent was a preacher, and she would just say the most like inane things, and he would be like, "Well, gosh golly, I guess you're right."
Yeah.
But like her face didn't move. It's like she had Botox or something. I can't remember.
I don't know. Maybe in a very old video then.
Well, it's been like a year or so, yeah, since I did it. But anyway, Peter knows what I'm talking about. But one of the people in the audience was like,
it was literally a scene of God is Not Dead, and then made into an entire movie. That's what's basically the whole plot was. The girl came up to the docent and he agreed immediately with every objection she made.
Yeah.
Which is...
And it's like he knew nothing at all about anything. Yeah, the animatronic girl, Majestic Feedback, because I swear, her face didn't move. Like, if she smiled, like barely the corners of her mouth would turn slightly upward, but otherwise, her face didn't move at all. It was kind of wild. One of the guys in the audience at one point, because she mentions the docent I think mentions the Galapagos finches. He's like, "Well, what about the Galapagos finches?" And this dude in the audience goes, but consider continuous environmental tracking explains how these two species underwent some adaptation. And the funny thing is, actually, I went and I read the paper, and actually only one of the two species of finch underwent an adaptation. The other one didn't. It didn't even meet the threshold. So it was like, it's a, what is it Dapper likes to say? A Trojan source, where the source doesn't match. Another example they use was like the blind cavefish. Was that guy Big Wave Dave? I think I was on Orange Channel for that one too. This guy Big Wave Dave is like, if you grow Mexican cave tetras in the presence of light, they will develop eyes. And he cites a paper. And if you go look at that paper, it says word for word, tetras grown in the presence of light has no effect on their eyes. So, it's like he read that, he did the Dipper meme from Gravity Falls where he's like, "Wow, this is worthless," and throws it in the fire. Like that's basically what he did.
We should start calling that the Otangelo Grasso fallacy. He's got an entire blog literally listing all these scientific papers that he claims say something and they say the opposite. And even after having pointed it out, it's still, all of it's still there.
I don't know. I like Trojan Source. I think that one's kind of fun. That was, I think
that too.
With that. Trojan Source is fun. Anyway, okay. Nestle, do you want to add anything on that point?
No, I think we covered it pretty well. Yeah.
All right. We can keep going.
It has made all organisms to have the ability to utilize continuous environmental tracking. Absolutely. What does that really mean? It means we have preloaded in our genetic information the ability to adapt to our environment. But here's the key, and this is the key that the Darwinists fail to recognize or admit.
You know that moment when you see a squirrel? I just saw a squirrel.
What squirrel?
Do you see the background? It completely reflects everything that is happening in this video. They have failed to connect the dots.
Okay.
That was my squirrel. Sorry.
Right. Oh, Genesis Impact. Regios says Genesis Impact was the movie with the museum docent. Yes. Yeah, Genesis Impact. Yeah.
Didn't have much of an impact on science. No. Just like Genesis. So that's a good name for it.
Yeah. Very apt. Yeah. What were you saying, Nestle?
I like you mentioned the Luria-Delbruck experiment, and I also remember the Liederberg experiment where they basically let's see what did they again? Like basically they showed that the variance that causes antibiotic resistance existed before the exposure to antibiotics.
Yes.
Basically, yes.
Yeah. I do remember that.
Hmm.
Because they
yeah.
wasn't it? It was Fleming himself like found some strains of bacteria back in like the 40s, wasn't it? That already had
Yeah.
antibiotic resistance, I think.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Basically, they had one original strain, and they basically grew it for a very long time before, or like one original strain not resistant to antibiotics, and they grew the original strain for a very long time, having different variants.
Mhm.
And it turns out that some of those variants just happen to be resistant without being exposed to the antibiotic. Yeah. At least if I understand, like there's one page on the Berkeley University website that explains the Liederberg experiment. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
The
Okay,
ability to adapt to your environment is within certain parameters. By the way, I borrowed that term from Dr. Galuza. I know he'll be okay with that. Okay,
That's right.
but within certain parameters, right?
Oh, that's right. I forgot to say.
And so that's what we
pause.
see. Now, there's other.
Okay, I also forgot to say because I'm very forgetful. Continuous environmental tracking. Dapper probably beat me for forgetting this. Is only talked about at ICR. None of the other creationist organizations will touch it with a 10-foot pole because they all know it's garbage. It's like it is solely the child of like Randy Galuza, who is the head of the ICR. Nobody else. No, AIG won't touch it. CMI won't touch it. Nobody else. Nobody wants it. It's so stupid. Even the other creationist organizations realize how stupid it is. It's that bad. One thing you do have to keep in mind, like on a less mean note, one thing you do have to keep in mind with regard to continuous environmental tracking is there's no mechanism for it. There just isn't. There's none at all. Basically,
Yeah.
There are different types of mutations that occur like in humans, right? Like you have on the one hand, you can have like tautomerization, which occurs basically when your nucleotides like switch between tautomers of each other, and then that can, if a polymerase happens to be coming along, at the same time that this is occurring, and like that nucleotide gets recognized as the wrong nucleotide, it can cause a mutation in the opposing strand. That kind of thing happens. You can also have like hypermutation, where basically you're generating lots of mutations in with the intention of getting like a diversity of products, right? Of protein products. And that's what we use for like dealing with pathogens, right? But given these things that we do know about, the mutations are always stochastic with respect to fitness, right? The somatic hypermutation stuff doesn't mean that like your body is picking and choosing mutations. It's just a probabilistic process. You're just increasing the like number of variants.
Overall rate of it increases the overall rate of mutation, not just the rate that are beneficial. It's also like it increases all the other rates, basically. Of course, when you say things like that, then some creationists will point out like, but some parts of the genome are like they are hypermutational. Like for example, like there's one region within the genome that's involved in like the immune system, which is why we are able to produce practically an infinite number of or indeterminate number of different antibodies, so we can have adaptive immunity, basically. Yeah, of course, that is because I forgot the mechanism for why, but it's still, as you say, it's still random. Basically, it's still a variable process. Like it doesn't pick the antibody except until after the fact, like after you have the interaction between the antibody and the pathogen. That's when you have the memory cells expressed. Yeah.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. It's random. It's stochastic. What you then have to ask is what is the actual like genetic mechanism by which continuous environmental tracking is happening.
Hmm.
And to my knowledge, I have never seen anyone talk about it. Never, not once. That's not to say they don't.
You have to argue that like there's like maybe a protein complex or anything basically that is able to edit the genome like in response to a environmental stimulus.
Mhm.
That's what you have to be able to show. Of course, like we know of some like I think you also are familiar with like CRISPR-Cas9,
Mhm.
right? But of course, that is not that doesn't in response to a it's not in response to an environmental stimulus. Basically, CRISPR-Cas is an adaptive immune system of prokaryotes. They are able to recognize like a segment of DNA within the virus, and then store that segment of DNA, and then use it to basically attack the virus within that segment of DNA. Again, a very abbreviated explanation, but if you can, there are many videos online that you can see of how the CRISPR-Cas9 system works. But of course, it's not in response to the environmental stimulus. Basically, that's what I'm saying.
Right.
Still, yeah.
Yeah, right. So they would have to propose some sort of protein mechanism that like targets specific genes in response to specific stimuli.
Mhm.
And there is no evidence such a thing exists that generates adaptations. There is zero evidence for that. Like it's not even like maybe it's a thing that exists. It's like just top to bottom, how would that work? There's just no idea, because none of them are geneticists, none of them are biologists, like in any sense, really. And so they don't care. Like they can talk about, oh, well, maybe it does this, but that's why it has no traction with any of the other creationist organizations, because they all know it doesn't work. There's just no mechanism for it. It makes no sense. Anyway, okay.
Papers that have been published, and they found that they had shown that E. coli bacteria, can use citrate as a energy source. So it wasn't unique to this
Under
experiment.
anaerobic conditions.
But it's interesting. When you look at Lenski's papers, which I've done, guess what kind of terminology I see in there? I see the word adaptation. I also see he admits that like an E. coli bacteria that were using the citrate, when they followed them, they actually had a pretty high rate of death and poor fitness, ability to reproduce and all that.
But
So
that sounds
No?
like not evolution.
that would be
Actually,
like
pause.
de-evolution
Yeah.
in a sense.
Pause. That's literally the exact opposite of what his studies have consistently found. Literally the exact opposite. What they have found, and in fact, I think they published a paper that was like, there is no like upper bound to the fitness. Wasn't there, Nestling? I'm pretty sure
There was no there was like an indefinite increase in fitness. Like
yes.
at first they thought it was like an it would eventually reach an asymptote. But
Mhm.
then now they're seeing more like I forgot the function of the
Did it
curve.
plateau off or something?
It didn't plateau. No, it basically keeps on going,
Okay.
never even reaching an asymptote. Basically.
Okay, I got you.
Yeah.
Okay, so basically, what he's saying is just a lie. So he's just lying, like just straight up. There's no, I don't even know. Like, it's not that he's confused. He would have to read when he says he reads about this. What I think he means is he reads creationist stuff about it. I doubt he's read like the Blount 2012 paper that explains the gene duplication, based on the way that he said they're continuously environmentally tracking. Like, it was a gene duplication that caused a novel phenotype. And the way he just said, oh, well, they can use citrate. Yes. A literally diagnostic characteristic of E. coli is that they cannot use citrate under aerobic conditions. They can utilize citrate under anaerobic conditions.
Oh, I got the paper.
Okay.
It's the paper published in the Royal Society. The title is Sustained Fitness Gains and variability in fitness trajectories in the long-term evolution experiment with Escherichia coli. And the abstract says many populations live in environments subject to frequent biotic and abiotic changes. Nonetheless, it is interesting to ask whether an evolving populations mean fitness can increase indefinitely and potentially without any limit, even in a constant environment. A recent study showed that fitness trajectories in E. coli populations over 50,000 generations were better described by a power law model than by a hyperbolic model. So I think that's the pattern I was referring to. Like it's a power law model.
Gotcha.
So
Yeah.
it does like the incremental increase in fitness does get lower and lower, but it never reaches a plateau basically. Yeah.
But like again, just like to the point, he's just lying.
Yeah.
When he says
Yeah.
the fitness is decreasing and they're dying off, he's just lying. Like that's all there is to it. I don't think there's any reason to be charitable. Like, oh, maybe he misread it. No, he's just lying. Or maybe, maybe he's not lying per se. Maybe the creationist he read is instead. That could be true. But again, we're not really doing him any service. It's just passing the buck from him, like not fact checking what he was reading to somebody else. So, Anyway, we can keep going.
So anyways, but the big picture when you're talking to people is, look, if you say you're into science. Some people are and some people just say it. They're really not.
He is
right?
not.
But if you're really into science, again, let's look at the longest experiment on evolution. We start with E. coli bacteria and we have
E. coli.
E. coli.
So again, if you like objective evidence, if you like the scientific method, then this is what we see. And again, it matches up to the biblical account, the biblical model. So again,
I don't remember E. coli being mentioned in the Bible.
Is all in our favor.
I would agree. So we do have a third study that you mentioned to me, and I have here like neo-Darwinism must mutate to survive.
Wait, pause for a second.
In and of itself.
Pause. He says a third study. There were only 2 studies linked. So in the video that we're watching, if you go to it on YouTube, they only link 2 technical papers, one of which is neo-Darwinism must mutate to survive, and the other paper is the mutation study. But the third paper they link is not a study. It's not even about E. coli. It's about the mitochondrial paper. So it's like a press release on the mitochondria paper. But none of the papers they put up are about E. coli. So I don't know if they accidentally just put in the wrong paper. They attached the wrong link. Maybe, I'm not sure. I don't know.
Itself sounds evolutionary, but let's hear what you have to say about that. What is that study, and why is that important?
Well, it really was a paper, and in the paper, they're actually poking fun at Darwin evolution. Neo-Darwinism must mutate to survive. And what they're basically pointing out that, I should mention the journal. It was in a Progress in Biophysics and Molecular Biology.
Yeah, which is like
very mainstream,
a nobody journal.
Speak. Doesn't mean make
it's
it
like
good.
A nobody journal.
Shows you can't say it's biased from a certain viewpoint,
Right.
right? This was in April 2022. And
play?
so what the authors basically had said is like, looking at Darwin evolution, can you really explain, the diversity of life, such as survival of the fittest and, quote, natural selection? And can you really explain what we're seeing in our world? And when they analyzed it from many different levels, basically their answer was, no, it really can't. And they came up with models, and they said it's so implausible that macroevolution, most specifically, was so implausible. Again, what's macroevolution? One type of creature organism fundamentally transitioning to another fundamentally different type of creature. The example I give when I'm, discussing, debating.
Like, are the guys that published that particular paper, are they like the extended evolutionary synthesis
I don't
guys?
even think so. One of them looks like a cardiovascular doctor. Oh, and the other is an engineer.
Oh, great.
So one is a medical doctor and one's an engineer. So the perfect people to write a paper on evolution. It
There's
says
also an associate author who was a dentist.
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah.
Can I just want to read for a second some of the like mind-numbing stupidity from the abstract of this paper.
All right.
Quote. Microevolution was biologically and empirically verified by discovery of mutations. Close quote.
Ooh, even that is wrong. Even
What
that
does
is
that
wrong.
even mean? Like, first of all, go ahead.
Oh no, go ahead. Sorry.
Just the existence of mutations verified macroevolution? No, or verified microevolution. Sorry. No, microevolution is genetic change below the level of species, like natural selection, sexual selection. Like these are aspects of microevolution. So microevolution was not vindicated when mutations were discovered. That's simply not what that means. It also says, quote, however, macroevolution required for all speciation events and the complexifications appearing in the Cambrian explosion are shown to be probabilistically highly implausible on the order of 10 to the negative 50th when based on selection by survival of the fittest. This is garbage through and through. Yeah, exactly. It's almost silly. Like, required for all speciation. It says speciation is probabilistically highly implausible.
I think the whole sentence says like specifically to the Cambrian, right?
Well, it says required for all speciation events. Here, I'll put it here in our little.
All right.
Then
that's crazy. Yeah, like all speciation.
There's the
events.
quote. So they're saying that speciation is probabilistically implausible, which is again insane, just absolutely abjectly bonkers.
It reminds me of the waiting time argument. Like if you calculate the a priori or at least the how do you call it, the probability after the fact. Like I won the lottery.
Yes.
What was the probability of me winning the lottery? Like a very tiny number. But of course, when lots of people are playing, at least one person winning among like many potential winners is very very high likely actually. That's why there are many lottery winners of the lottery every year, basically, because so many people are participating. There is bound to be at least one winner sometimes.
My favorite on this is my favorite on this is what happened today. So everything that happened today worldwide to every person on this planet happening in this particular sequence today. What's the probability of that all happening in the correct sequence as it happened today? So it must not have happened.
Of course, absolutely.
Because then we get to a number far larger than creationists want to use.
Yeah, it's such a garbage paper. I'm reading the introduction right now, and it's so silly. Another thing, they keep using survival of the fittest to describe natural selection, and I hate that. I hate it so much. Okay.
Well, the problem becomes a real problem when you ask them what they mean with survival of the fittest. Because then you're going to get something that isn't what it actually is.
And again, however, microevolution is inadequate for macroevolution, surely for speciation, which requires multiple incremental mutations that individually are not functionally more advanced. So they're just arguing that okay, so macroevolution requires incremental mutations, each of which are not functional in and of themselves. Which again,
that's basically
insane.
a rephrasing of the it's a rephrasing of the irreducible in complexity argument. Like each mutation has to be each mutation has to be like selectable or improving the function basically. And then like B would say like, oh no, the like for the evolution of like, for example, the bacterial flagellum requires many steps, and most of these steps are not increasing functions. You have to have all of them at the same time basically. And I think it's also what they are saying here. Of course, there's a lot of things wrong with that. Like you can have acceptation, you can have like one complex, for example, the not the bacterial flagellum per se, but the ATP synthase, the little turbine basically that makes ATP. It's composed of two separate units, a membrane pore and helicase enzyme basically, and those two parts are functional on their own basically. It's just like, of course, when you think like, oh, step by step by step, then you cannot, like that possibility is excluded from the beginning. But of course, it doesn't consider all possibilities. When you look at when you consider an evolution of step by step by step, instead what can happen is you have two already complex structures which are combined to form one large structure, as in the case of many cases at least. Like I think it also is the case with let's see here. Like there was also one case of like I think in hemoglobin there was like also like two subunits involved as well, instead of only one. Yeah.
Yeah. No, this paper is garbage. It's hot garbage top to bottom. It's insane. Like just a little bit that we read like is red flags all over the place. So anyway.
Would be
unless you have anything
from dinosaur.
I'm sorry, I was just gonna say, unless you have anything to add, we can keep going.
I think we can keep going. Yeah.
Okay.
Dinosaurs to birds. That's quite a major change, right?
And
That
one
would,
that
really.
they push.
No,
so
it's
yeah,
not
heavily.
that would be quote.
Yeah.
Nothing new happened though. There was nothing new. Like you can describe everything that happened in the evolution of birds as like a loss, right? They fused
Like
lots of bones.
yeah.
They
It
fused bones.
also
They lost
depends
their
on
teeth.
where. Yeah.
They
Depends on
lost.
where you are.
Yeah, they lost their long bony tail. They fuse like the synsacrum together. The wing fingers are fused together. The only the only characteristics that separates like dromaeosaurs from birds is the capacity for like powered flight.
I think I remember one paper that talks about like the flight capability, and I think like the only difference between like the basal dromaeosaurs and the basal avialans was like avialans were just slightly better at flapping.
Yes, right, exactly. There's no like feathers already existed in dinosaurs. The bony teeth, long bony tail, open acetabulum, fourth trochanter. All the characteristics early avialans have, dinosaurs already had. Like there was nothing new there. So try again.
Supposed macroevolution. Now, of course, we all know there's no fossil evidence of it. There's no known mechanism how you could get the novel or new genetic information for the body changes to occur.
What
But
change?
regardless,
Like,
they say, well, it's
what?
so important.
What characteristic? Like name a characteristic. I dare you. And of course he won't. He doesn't know anything about this transition.
Yeah,
They will probably say like feathers. They will probably say feathers. Yeah.
Feathers already exist. Like feathers are
Yeah.
in tyrannosaurs, right? You know, you have like proto
even
feathers and pterosaurs.
even panaceous feathers already exist in like the dromaeosaurs and also oviraptors as well.
Yeah, exactly. It's like I guarantee he doesn't know anything about the transition from dinosaurs to birds, which is why he's not going to name any actual characteristics. He's just going to say, "Oh, well, think of all the changes that occurred." Like what? Like what? Name one. Guarantee
Also,
you can't.
also this freeze frame caption this. Incredulity is my strong suit.
Yeah.
Plausible. It's around something like 10 to the 50th power.
Okay, so he just took
one
that from the
chance in
paper.
10 to the 50th power. Now remember, there's about 10 to the 60th particles that make up the whole universe. So basically, it's it's essentially
It's
impossible.
impossible.
It's not going to work. So it's interesting you see that in the mainstream journal like that. And we're starting to see it a little bit more coming out, some of these journals, even though it's hard to get published in them like that. And the authors also made a very good point. They said, doubting is good in science. Now, you notice with the Darwinian evolutionists, they get very upset when you doubt their model. You challenge them based on the science.
They get
and the
very
objective
defensive.
evidence. They're very defensive. But
Let's pause. Oh, you're absolutely allowed to challenge. You just have to actually know something about the field that you're challenging, which none of these nitwits do, obviously. Like,
I forgot.
if you want to level a claim, if you want to say, hey, I have an idea, and here's a bunch of evidence, like here are the step-by-step, pieces of evidence that I have that all indicate my model is the correct one, great. Bring them on. If you don't have that, which you don't, then shut up. You have nothing to contribute.
I forgot who it said. Who it was that said it, but I heard this in somewhere in the last few days. Someone saying a theory that hasn't been challenged yet is called a hypothesis. Because you can't get to a
It's gonna
theory.
get challenged, yeah.
Yeah, and you have to challenge it for it to
Right.
become a theory.
Yeah,
That's
it's got to account for as much of the data as possible, and like, if someone challenges it and shoots it full of holes, then it's not, it doesn't become a theory. It just stays a discounted hypothesis, basically.
yeah, but
Justin, you were
if
saying
no one challenges
it's-
it's also not going to become a theory because
Mhm.
you have to be able to challenge it.
I was just saying that it's totally fine. Like you're even welcomed to point out any problems with that. But the problem is that when all your arguments basically appeal to your own incredulity, then we have a problem. Like it's just like I love the quote by David Lewis. I don't know how to refute an incredulous stare. So when all you give is an incredulous stare, like we cannot do anything. Like there's nothing you give me to work with.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's all these guys have. They don't know anything. This guy's a holistic medicine charlatan. The other two are young earth creationists. I mean, like, there's nothing being brought to the table here. They don't know anything. So, yeah.
In all fairness, so we're almost at 2/3 of the video. He brought his son. He brought his son. I mean, he's better than Kent Hovind. One hasn't said much, but he brought him.
Well, they're still on speaking terms with each other, so there's that.
Yes, so that's a plus,
Yeah.
right?
That is a plus. Yep, that's a plus.
Doubting's always been good in science. Whether you're a Christian, whether you're an evolutionist, doubting is a
And I have to say it. Why is this room spinning? Because this is making me mad if I'm looking at this video and the room is constantly.
What?
Well, just look.
Peter, what's in your drink?
Once you notice it, you cannot unsee it anymore. I'll start the video.
I think
I'll
the
start the-
camera is just panning a bit.
Yes,
Yeah.
just look at the video.
good thing in the sense that you're always looking to make sure you're confirming what the truth
Oh,
is.
you're right. I
Now we
do
have
see it.
objective ways to do it in Christianity, but in terms of Darwinists, I mean, they have to use what's in the published literature.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, it works against their model. So they basically said two things, these authors.
Wait a
Number
second.
one,
Hold on, pause. Well, he's got to keep the conspiracy straight. Is it they don't want? I thought he was saying earlier that you aren't allowed to challenge evolution in the scientific, the academia. Now it's the academia is full of counterexamples of evolution, and they don't like using academia. Like, I'm confused. Keep the conspiracy straight. It can't be both.
I think he will say like, oh, there are a few brave scientists who managed to get through the cracks of the. Yeah, it's something like that probably.
The conspiracy has to keep changing, to support their ideas in a
Jackson,
given moment.
Jackson,
You
we
can see it, Peter. Though. I
we-
saw what you were talking about.
we went through that book, remember? And you still think that we need to have young earth creationists being consistent in their arguments, because that won't work. They have to
It's,
contradict each other in order to work. So there's no
Yeah.
way you can be consistent.
Well,
Yeah.
that's why one of my favorite like video series on YouTube is Dan Stern Cardinal's oh shoot, what does he call it? It's like there's a term for it, I can't remember, but it's basically he pits two ideas within young earth creationism against each other. So like each one is an attempt to explain something, and creationists will invoke both of them to explain some phenomenon, but they are mutually contradictory.
Hmm.
Like I love that kind of stuff. That is the funniest stuff. It's so great.
it's like I think there was like a hand, like it's almost like a hand guide to conspiracy theories. Like I forgot the exact title, but there's like these social scientists who have described what are the hallmarks of conspiracy theories, and one of the hallmarks is actually self-contradictions. Like it's for example, that's a very funny statistics. If you believe that Marilyn Monroe was assassinated, then you're also more likely to believe that she is still alive.
Yeah. That is pretty funny. Yeah. I just watched I don't know if you guys know who like Vosh and Destiny are. But they're like political they debate like politics and stuff, and they'll talk to conspiracy theorists. And Destiny the other day just had Candace Owens on, who is who's a conservative pundit. And conservative pundits, yeah, Creationist Contradictions is a Dan Stern Cardinal series. Thank you, Zach. Also view Zach Hancock's channel. He makes lots of great videos too. So the basically everything that like Candace Owens says to Destiny is like it's conspiracy, right? It's you have everything kind of top down. Like she'll say, this song will get millions of shares around the world, but it's because of like these record companies or whatever. Like they're the ones creating the culture. Well, what about all the ground floor, just normal people who make like TikToks and and everything about these songs and stuff? No, they're also being no, it seems like they're in control of their own desires or likes or whatever, but actually it's the companies. They're the ones controlling the people. It's all nonsense. It's all like conspiracy. It's small cabal of people controlling everything, but they have to do everything, right? They have to control everything you like, all everything you consume from the media, just like absolutely everything. It's crazy. The level of control that they have to exert is beyond anything anyone could possibly do. But it's fine. It's fine. Don't worry about it. I don't know. I think conspiracies are fun sometimes, but like just kind of at a distance, when you start arguing with conspiracy theorists and they have to start going, well, maybe we can invoke this other thing, and maybe we can invoke this other thing. It's like, I don't like it.
Darwin evolution fails to account for, and they must account for, non-life to life. And this really is like dynamite to the evolutionist. There is no model, there's no known mechanisms how you can go from non-life to life, which you'd call abiogenesis. Matter of fact, if you look at modern dictionaries, like the McGraw-Hill Dictionary of Scientific and Technical Terms, which a new edition, by the way, is $1,000. They
Gotta make money somehow.
They say right in there that abiogenesis from non-life to life is an obsolete concept. If you look at the Oxford Dictionary of
is this how we do science these days?
Generation.
Jackson, help me out. Is this how we do science these days? We go to a dictionary and see what the dictionary says, and if it says it's bogus, then we stop looking?
I probably for him probably, but I'm willing to bet.
Or is
he's
that
thinking
or is that just for people who are stupid enough to pay $1,000 for a dictionary when you have the internet? I'm wondering.
He probably would be the kind of person to do that. But what I'm willing to bet he's thinking of is he means spontaneous generation. And then he's saying that is the obsolete concept, but he's getting that mixed up with abiogenesis. I'm willing to bet that's what he means, because spontaneous generation is an obsolete concept, and there is kind of a sort of intellectual through line between both of these ideas in the sense of having life come from non-life, but the mechanisms by which life comes from non-life in them are completely separate. And in fact, there are even different versions of spontaneous generation in which life arises from non-life through different methods. But like, obviously he doesn't know that. He doesn't care about that. And that's another conversation. So like, abiogenesis is a series of processes, a very large series of biochemical reactions and processes that, encompass everything from like polymers being built from monomers all the way up to like, the natural selection of like protocells. Like that's all contained under abiogenesis versus spontaneous generation, which is like, mice being formed from like dirty socks, or something like that. Anyway.
Science.
Yes.
They say it's
DM is right. The
discredited.
dictionaries do often conflate abiogenesis and spontaneous generation. Yeah. They do.
He's flabbergasted. You see that?
I'd be flabbergasted too if I had hit as empty as his.
Concept.
Wow.
So this is, this is the way it is. Darwin evolution, you can't get started. You can talk about these other theoretical things, but remember, the whole thing can't even get started. And Darwin, on Origin of the Species, did he actually ever address the actual origin?
No.
No,
Did you
not
read
at
the
all.
book?
He started with, billions of steps that would have had to been required to even get to the point what he's talking about. Beetles and finches and all that, right? Number two, they say that blossoming of life forms is so extreme that it appears to be outrageous, and so that it stretches logic to explain the millions of extremely diverse species seen currently and in the fossil record. So this is what they're pointing out. So this is what the science shows. This is what the objective evidence shows. And it all goes back to supporting, whether one wants to admit it or not, the biblical record as a read in Genesis, and that there had to be a mind behind it. And we know who that mind is. It's the Lord Jesus Christ. And of course, we have much evidence to give to the Lord Jesus Christ, but it's not about objective evidence. We're humans. People have emotions and
Biases.
biases, and we have a spirit. And what do you think, Mark? Anything you want to add to that?
Yeah, I guess just to pick up what you're saying, God's made us with different parts, you could say. We have a mind, we have a physical part, we have our body, we have the spiritual aspect of ourselves. We have the emotions in our heart and our mind. And so this is one way to appeal to the mind, which is important. We don't want to discredit that. And I think that God's word answers the questions we have. And, even as believers, we're continually learning and growing in our understanding of God and his world and his ways. And that's part of our sanctification. But in terms of presenting the gospel message with science, with the apologetics, yes, we're appealing to the mind, and it can seem abstract if we keep it there. And not that it's bad that we present these
I'm
things
pretty
as
sure
important.
all the science they deal
But
with
if we
is
just keep it as,
abstract.
well, now there's a creator.
I'm just
In the sense
wondering.
that
I'm
they
just
don't
wondering. He's talking a lot, but he hasn't said anything yet.
You're right. He sure hasn't.
I'm still waiting for him to get to a point. He seems to be fixated on mind because he's mentioned that several times now. And there's evidence, but that's not what we're going to look for. Evidence for Jesus. I mean, that's not interesting. Yeah, I have no clue. There's a bias
No, Peter,
showing.
don't you know that like apologetics is all about saying lots of words without actually saying anything?
Yeah. This guy's nailing it.
Yeah, doing pretty good.
Who made me. Darwinian evolution is false. Okay, you've convinced me intellectually, but now what? Now, where does that leave me? And I think that's where we can present the gospel. So we don't just leave someone with, okay, you're wrong. Whatever you've been brought up to believe.
I don't understand your science, so therefore God did it. That seems
Correct,
like
obviously.
yeah, that's basically it. So, okay.
Is false.
I would love to talk to these guys. Like they mentioned that they go and like witness to people and stuff. I would love to talk to them. That would be so much fun. Because
is there a way to contact them, Jackson? Because I'd be more than happy to send out an email.
Do we remember what his name is? Do we remember what any of their names are? Hold on, I have an idea. I'll figure this out. Let me go back to. Give me a second. Hold on. Let me go to YouTube. New. Oh, okay. Go back to YouTube and then go to content live.
The title of the video is "These Scientific Papers Destroy Evolution."
I got it.
That was
okay. There you go. I found it. Okay. Okay. So what are their names again? Mark Stengler. There we go. Yeah, Mark Stengler. Okay, here we go. I don't care. Oh, is it possible to contact him? Contact us. Haha, Peter. There it is.
See? That's what I usually do. I don't get a lot of responses. If I
it seems like there are patient contact. It says complete this form to begin your wellness journey. Oh, media inquiries. Maybe that's what it is. Yeah, media inquiries available for book interviews. Video testimony. Does it just take you? It just takes you right back to the patient thing if you click contact us. Maybe try. I don't know. It says media inquiries, but then if you click contact us at the bottom, view testimonials, media. Oh, there's a testimonials from our patients, pre-order, media inquiries. Is that welcome? No. No. Close that. I can't click on it. Huh. Oh, email media inquiry? Question mark. Maybe that's it. Sorry guys, I'm trying. I'm getting there.
I have to say, so I've tried it a few times. I never get a response when I'm contacting a Christian. When I'm contacting someone who is not a Christian, I always get a response, which is weird. But I rarely. So when it comes to people like this who have been featured in some kind of TV show or online show or whatever, you most likely never gonna get an answer.
Okay, hold on. Let me see. Actually, I might. Let's see. I'm trying. Let me check my email and see if I can. Yeah, it's me. It's me. Let me sign in. Okay, question mark. Question mark. Sign into Windows. Continue. Can I make this bigger at all? It's hard to see. What is this? Is all into. I don't really want to do any of that. Do I? I don't care. I don't know. Why doesn't it just let me? Whatever. You might be able to do it, Peter. So yeah, if you go to media inquiries, you might be able to reach out to them.
Put me the link in the private chat. I'll try and see what I can do.
Okay.
Wandering Traveler says the only person I get responses from, and actually too many responses from, is our dead friend Otangelo. Well, so he showed up on one of Arn's shows quite recently, and people were asking me to just ban him. Instead, I just timed him out every single time, which I think I timed him out about 6 times during the entire show.
All right, Peter, I'm putting it in Twitter. There you go.
Okay. he's quite annoying, and he wants to aggravate people to the point where they no longer want to talk to him, and then he wants to talk to them. So
Yeah,
it's
I can speak from
really
experience.
yes. I mean, he can contact me if he could, but he's got me blocked everywhere, which I'm pretty proud of. And he's probably not going to unblock me anymore because I'm a mod on too many channels, and I keep timing him out every single time I run into him. And I know that's what he thinks is worse than being blocked, because then he can go to a sock account. But yeah, it's well, someone will have to live with, I guess. So continue, Jackson.
Yes.
Here's the solution, to the problem. We can explain the gospel message that now you can know this creator loves you, and has revealed himself in Jesus. So,
well, it's kind of the flip side of what you were saying earlier, how if you can mistrust one part of scripture, what other part can you mistrust? It's kind of the flip side of that. When you show that you really, truly can believe what scripture says about these things,
Okay.
then it
Actually,
increases
Peter,
our
I think
faith
we're
and
done.
improves our faith in the rest.
Peter, I think we're done. They're just doing altar call at this point.
Yeah. Okay.
I think we can move to the other video.
I was just replying to Smitty. He said, "What are Otangelo's degrees in?" I think it's Celsius in Brazil.
What are Otangelo's degrees? Okay, well, this video is dumb. They obviously didn't know anything they were talking about. They just kind of repeated some creationist tropes. I do want to thank oh shoot, what's his name? Give me a second. Nobody look at me, don't perceive. I feel real bad. Immutable. Thank you, Immutable Destiny, for sending that one to us. We have another video. Peter, you're very dark. You're in a room. It's very dark.
Oh, I forgot. I don't like the bright lights when I'm producing because I've got several screens, and then I'm old, so
Gotcha.
my eyes struggle with the bright lights and stuff.
So that video was bad. So now we are going to
Breaking
move
news.
on.
Breaking news, Jackson.
Okay.
Really? Look. Breaking news.
It is breaking news. Yeah, so we are going to move on to this other video that's like widespread fraud. Oh, Wandering Traveler is Immutable Destiny. Oh, okay. Did not realize that. Gotcha. Cool.
He's pulling an Otangelo on us. Coming here with a fake name.
I guess I'll make you a mod too, I guess, because it's the same person. So okay. Anyway, so yeah, thanks to
hold on.
Immutable...
Before you continue, so we have a wandering traveler with an immutable destiny.
Correct.
Good thing.
Yeah. So this is a video that I saw Erica retweeting. I don't remember what the context for it is, but she was very mad about this video. I do also want to say one note before we start. Erica ratioed Eric Hovind into the sun, to use her words, because he so Erica just reached 100K subscribers on YouTube. Very
nice.
Very good job. So she just reached 100K subscribers, and when you do that, you get a like a nice shiny like a plaque thing from YouTube, silver. So she posted on YouTube she posted on Twitter that, like, she took a picture of it, thought it was really cool, and she posted what was it? She did like a video that was like about her animations, I think, for her like 100K subscriber special or something like that. Anyway, and Eric was like, "Oh, look at these evolutionists drawing cartoons," and and she was like, well, yeah, these are just cartoons that I draw because I enjoy
Yeah,
making
she is a
cartoons.
better artist than you, Eric. Yes, she is.
Yeah,
Mhm.
and she was like, if you want to talk about evolution, we can do that, and just absolutely ratioed him. It was very funny, because he's very dumb. So anyway, yes, Smitty's right. Her animations are very good. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's true.
The difference between Erica and Eric is that Erica draws cartoons while Eric is one. Sorry, had to do it.
That's a good one.
Yeah. So I don't know a whole lot about this video other than it made Erica really mad because, as I understand, they basically called people a bunch of like fraud, like paleoanthropologists, a bunch of like fraudsters or something. So
I watched part of the video, not everything, but I really want to see the video this guy made. So basically, what he did is exactly what Ben Stein did back a few years ago, and interview people pretending to make a pro evolution video, and then for some reason exposing the frauds. I'm certain we're going to see a lot of jump cuts in that particular video. Another thing is that he wrote, I think, or I got that wrong, but I think he wrote several books, and you need to read all of them. So basically, this is like Hovind used to do. Buy my videos, and when you buy the videos, you get 10 videos, which basically all say the same thing, even literally the same thing over and over and over again, because Hovind can't be consistent when he's talking about a specific topic. He will diverge into things that he's talked about on other videos, just so he can say you need to buy that one too, because what I just said here, I said that on that one too.
Mm-hmm.
But
I'm trying to find that tweet where she ratioed him. Keep going.
Yeah, so that's basically what this is. I also looked if I could find more on the guy who Eric is interviewing, and it turns out that 7 years ago he overturned human evolution. I didn't know that, but so that's the only videos that I could find on YouTube, and I'm not going to go into books because I don't want to buy a book from a guy like that anyway. But
man, I'm trying to find it. It's man, I don't remember how long. It couldn't have been that long ago. I feel like it was pretty recently, but like I'm going through her replies, her tweets and replies, and I'm not seeing it. I don't know. Maybe if somebody, well, oh well. It was very funny. That's all it was. Like it just she ratioed Eric, and it was very funny. I don't know. I can't find it. Whatever.
Let me give it a try.
Oh, wait. I found it. Okay. That's what it was. Oh, that's what it was. She double ratioed him. Okay. So Eric, my mistake. I misremembered things. So first, Erica posts, I hit 100K subscribers on YouTube. Help me celebrate by watching my brand new animations. Eric quote tweets this and says, promoter of evolution celebrates 100K subs by replicating all evidence of evolution in her newly released animated video showing drawings of evolution. Seems appropriate. Erica both responded to this, responded in a comment in there ratioing him, and then quote tweeted him and ratioed him again. And the original post got more likes than Eric's post did. So it's all so good. It's so very good. I love watching Erica beat up people. It's very funny.
But I take it Eric never replied.
No, he did actually. He said DM me. Which I assume she did. I assume she did.
He did that to me.
Her,
he did that to me. I think 5 or 6 years ago, when I joined one of his webinars on Facebook.
Yeah.
So I DM'd him and nothing happened, and then I DM'd the page they had for the ministry, and then someone replied to me there and said, "Well, Eric is a very busy man, but I'll see what I can do." And that was the last I heard from them.
Yeah.
So
that tracks. I guess we could start this video. We'll get a couple minutes into it.
Yeah. Fine with me.
So we have 20 minutes left, so that's just enough to have cover 1 minute of the video.
It'll cover Eric's introduction, I think. Just kidding. We'll see.
Of what God says, and I mean, I've said it.
There we go.
150 frauds at all the largest museums: Paris, London, New York City, Buenos Aires, Johannesburg, involving the most common ape men you would think of: Neanderthal man, Homo habilis, Australopithecus afarensis, Australopithecus africanus, etc., etc. It is widespread, and this is an alarming discovery.
Welcome to the Creation Today show, where we
I'm sorry
bring
to do this, but to prove
interviews
Nestle
with
correct, can you pause for a moment? I'm sorry to prove Nestle correct.
Couldn't hold back.
I couldn't help it. He said Neanderthals were fraudulent too, but like the AIG says they're just humans, right? Like all the creationist organizations say they're just humans. I don't understand. I don't get it. I don't get that one.
Yeah. Also, one minor question. Like maybe it's a difference in language, but he said etc. But I am used to thinking etc.
That's
etc. There's no etc.
etc.
Etc. etc.
etc.
I don't know.
I'm looking at the screen. So we have LGBTQ plus,
the LGBT,
and then we have genetic editing. America worth dying for. America worth dying for.
The LGBT screen and that alien and UFOs one. Well, okay. So typically, the funny thing about creationists, Vadim, is typically they will say aliens are real, but they're not aliens. Like people do get abducted, but it's like interdimensional demons. They will accept that. Like interdimensional demons are fine, but aliens from another planet not fine. Apparently, I guess
it's like the video game Doom. Like it's like a portal to hell on the moon or something.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
There's one on there that I really like, the Off-Grid Creationist.
Those are just rednecks.
Yes, I would love to see some footage of the Off-Grid Creationist.
It's just Ian Juby like out in the woods, like train spotting.
Train spotting.
Isn't that?
Yeah.
Isn't that just the alternative title to Duck Dynasty?
The Off-Grid Creationists.
Yeah.
You know, they only live like an hour from me, hour and a half, not very far away. Actually, is it?
Oh, really?
Hold on. Let me verify. It's yeah, hour and a half. Yeah, they only live an hour and a half from me, out in Monroe. Yeah, not very far.
Well, you could go and visit them, Jackson, but you'll have to grow your beard a bit. It's not a Duck Dynasty beard yet.
My dad can gets a full beard of hair. I don't know what gene I got, or allele or whatever. I did not get that one. I didn't get the one he has. It grows in very patchy.
I don't get that either. Mine grows very slow. I did grow a beard at some point, but I got annoyed. It didn't grow too fast. So,
Yeah.
what do you want to do?
So it's actually. Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
Oh, it's just like now you're mentioning beard. It's actually like I've been I did some research regarding it, and we actually know very little how beards grow. Like why there's only, or how
Really?
how there's only a small patch of area on your face where hair grows, and most of your face doesn't grow any hair. Like we don't know. We don't know the mechanisms of what divides different sections of your skin, where hair grows and where hair less grows. Basically, yeah, it's very mysterious. Yeah,
That's interesting. Well, I guess because that would all be like stuff within the last 6 million years, right? And we have like no really soft tissue remains in the relevant time period. So yeah, that's interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting.
Well, it's suspected to be a form of like a Turing mechanism. Like I also talked about it with our the talk on body plans and gene regulatory networks. You have like a Turing mechanism is more commonly understood as a pattern that lays down like fur patterns. Like you see the stripes on a zebra that is laid down by a Turing mechanism as well, and with slightly different parameters, you can have different patterns like spots or stripes or whatever. And it's suspected that Turing patterns are also involved with like some patches of your skin are expressing like indeterminate hair, like your scalp, and some portions of your face where beard can grow. Yeah, but of course, exactly how it happens in us, like I don't know, and I don't see anybody else who knows.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
And anyway, I'm derailing this whole video. Sorry for that.
We have to.
We can continue.
Just to spite Nestle, we have to get 2 minutes in. So.
I'm game.
And solid Bible teaching. Your host, Eric Hovind, affirms the ultimate authority of God's Word.
Oh,
the
I'm
truth
sure
of
he's
creation,
firm while he's doing this
and
show.
why it matters to you.
Fraud at the highest level of scientific research is being exposed right now.
By
ladies
who
and gentlemen,
exactly?
a research project that has been taking place over the last 27 years is making its way to the public, and its findings are, well, they're exposing this secret, this worldwide fraud that is being perpetuated among people still today in college classrooms and in museums everywhere.
Okay.
My guest
pause.
today has spent the last 27 years.
Pause. Okay, so again, like, this is conspiracy theory nonsense. That's all this is. We can like immediately write this off as just a conspiracy theory, because basically, anytime someone proposes that they have uncovered a secret that has flown under the nose of like every person in existence, but they know about the secret and they're here to expose it to you.
But
anyone who says
Jackson,
that is selling you snake oil.
But Jackson,
what?
They spent 27 years researching this.
Oh, I'm sure he did.
27 years? I very much doubt that. I need receipts for that.
Like the idea that for 27 years at least, right? Because they've been researching this for 27 years. So it goes back longer than that. The idea that in those almost 3 decades, like there's just been this widespread fraud in like every anthropological like group on the planet, and either no one's aware or everyone is suppressing it collectively. Like, that's nonsense. You really don't even need, in my opinion, to do any sort of like rigorous analysis of it. You can just kind of dismiss it out of hand, right? Anytime it's something like that, you can just dismiss it. I'm sure they're gonna. What'd you say?
It's also like one thing about like conspiracy theories. Like the more people that have to be involved in it, the more likely it is to be bunk. Because like the greater number of people that have to be involved in it to sustain the conspiracy, the higher the probability it is that the conspiracy gets out. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. That like the deep state sort of conspiracies that conservatives like. You have to invoke an argument that almost everyone in the government, including the people on their own side, are involved in the conspiracy, right? It's everyone. It has to be everyone. And like, okay, yeah, there are reptiles in the government, but everyone in the government, like, well, wait a second. What about if you have like, a relative who's in the government? Are they also part of the conspiracy? Is it also the local government? Is it just federal? Is it state? It's nonsense. It's all nonsense. It's like thousands and thousands of people across the U.S. have to all be in on the conspiracy and all hide it together, as well as other countries too. Like it's usually not just them. You're telling me that like if that's and that's one of my favorite things about the moon landing hoax, right?
Yeah.
If we it's like, okay, well, the whole government and also Hollywood faked the moon landing,
and Russia is lying on the US's behalf.
You think the USSR would lie on America's behalf? Are you kidding me? Why?
My favorite is still it's CGI. They had CGI in the 60s. Do you know what CGI stands for?
All right, computer generated, right?
Exactly, yes. Yeah. I mean,
my favorite joke that people tell is, Stanley Kubrick, was like, okay, well, to fake he was hired to fake the moon landing, but he's so serious about the movies that he makes that to fake it, they actually had to film it on site. They had to film it on the moon, to fake it. So, there was one I saw, and I can't remember who it was. Someone like had circled what looked like a little stage on in one of the pictures of the astronauts on the moon, and they were like, here's a stage on the moon where they were faking the moon landing. It's like, wait, they faked it on the moon? Okay, yeah. So,
what a twist!
Yeah, it wasn't real on the moon. Yeah, I guess. Anyways, I'm sorry, I keep getting us off topic.
Years researching human evolution, and spent several of those years undercover, kind of on mission, traveling around the globe, interviewing expert researchers who are at the top of their field and have some of the most well-recognized discoveries in the world of paleontology. But what he's discovered during his time truly is alarming. He, along with his wife Debbie, are now blowing their cover, so to speak, in order to expose these frauds to the world.
Okay.
Joining me to discuss what he has learned and what he's discovered is Dr. Carl Werner. Dr. Werner, thank you for joining me today.
Thank you, Eric. It's a pleasure to be with you. Thank you.
I am just learning about your research, and you have now developed a list of over 130 and maybe up to 150 now, frauds in the realm of human evolution, of what they're presenting that is simply, it's not just a mistake, it's actually a fraud. Am I correct in that?
That's right. It's a purposeful deception, such as lies, altering fossils and hiding it, changing diagrams, but purposeful deception of the public. It's a very strong word. And it's not just one scientist at the Natural History Museum with Piltdown. That's the only one we really knew of before. But now it's 150 frauds at all the largest museums: Paris, London, New York City, Buenos Aires, Johannesburg, involving the most common ape men you would think of: Neanderthal man, Homo habilis, Australopithecus afarensis, Australopithecus africanus, et cetera, et cetera. It is widespread, and this
Okay,
is
but what's the
an
fraud?
alarming
What is the
discovery.
fraud?
Well, I want you to show and share with us some of what you've discovered. But as we get into that, or before we get into that, literally a couple years kind of
get
almost
into that now,
undercover
please.
to actually get these interviews and get these photographs and get the filming on site, on location where these things have been discovered. I got to tell you, man, your whole life sounds like a movie script just waiting to be released to the public. I mean, this is amazing. You got to tell us how this got started.
Dullest
Well,
movie
actually,
anyone has ever seen.
More broad than that. We have been filming undercover 27 years. Our first interview was with Don Johansson 27 years ago in 1997. And we have interviewed all across North America, South America, Africa, and Europe, and some in Australia too. And we also had the opportunity to photograph the original fossils of what are purported to be ape men. And that was really the key. They didn't understand that we were questioning evolution. We just came to do interviews with them about their ape man that they had discovered. And as we photograph whole collections of fossils in Tanzania, Nairobi, Johannesburg, Pretoria, the whole lot, these frauds just started popping out. And it was like, really? No, it couldn't be this blatant.
Like what?
And I don't know
what do you mean?
Give
us an example.
This, but it really did take access to the scientists. It took access to the fossils, and just took a little bit of sleuthing, reading tons and tons of articles. Our bibliography on this project, just to show you how well research is, the bibliography is 432 pages long. So
like the little thing at the end of a book that says, here's where the information is gathered from, just that is 450 pages.
432 pages. And what we did is, these
did
articles
they write
are hidden,
notes?
like in the Journal of Japan, written in Japanese, or the Journal of French journal, and it's written in French. And so you had to translate it. And I thought, I'm not going to let anyone do this work again. I'm going to do the work of translating, and then I'm going to put a whole paragraph of what was said with the quote that I need in the middle of the paragraph, so it doesn't look like I'm quote mining. I want to make it totally reliable.
Did you catch that?
Okay.
Did you catch that?
He didn't want to quote mine?
No, he put a little bit more text into it, so it didn't look like he was quote mining.
Well, I think he just means he's trying to make it look like he's not just pulling a sentence out of context.
I'm curious how many languages this guy speaks. When he said he did all the translating,
The funny thing is, like,
did he use Google Translate?
I don't know what he could possibly, like, what could he possibly need to pull journals in other languages when you have most of the papers on these subjects going to be published in English, like on all the relevant materials. So I don't know why you'd need to go to a French.
I think he translated
journal.
into creationist.
Maybe. Well, unfortunately, it is we're just about to hit the 2-hour mark. I guess next time when we start, we'll just go through this video. So
I actually now remember this guy, like a very long time ago, like more than 5 years, maybe
7.
10 years.
7.
So I saw this like YouTube series called The Grand Experiment, and he is the, like one of the people behind it, right? Yeah.
Yes,
yeah.
and the Grand Experiment was about human evolution, if I'm not mistaken.
I bet you can't prove evolution, says Carl Werner.
But there was also like maybe I'm misremembering, but there was also a clip where he he interviewed, or somebody on his team interviewed Timothy Rao on like a few fossils, and one of the fossils was Archaeoraptor, and then another fossil, and then another fossil was I think it was Microraptor. And Timothy Rao was like saying, like, oh, in this fossil we can see that there is one piece of this a fossil that doesn't belong there. So most of the fossil was okay, but there's this one tiny piece that has been misplaced, basically. Of course, Timothy Rao was cut off at a certain point, and the whole video was like saying like, "Oh, look at this, the entire fraud," basically. Like, but no, it was just one tiny piece. If you remove the tiny piece, the whole fossil is still legitimate, basically, of Microraptor. Yeah. It's that's one thing I remember from that video series.
It's WT53.
It's a very old video series. Yeah.
Homo gautengensis implications.
It was way back. It was way back when the Archaeoraptor was also described and such. Yeah. Yeah.
The thing I don't get is he has been filming these interviews for 27 years, and then he wrote books. Why did you film it? If you're not going to show people the things that you filmed, why? The part I didn't get, because I was looking, there had to be a video. If you had 27 years of video material proving your case, why not show it?
Yeah. Interesting.
Oh, look.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was trying to find some information on.
In the meantime, Jackson, I timed out a certain Brazilian.
Yeah, I saw him. That's fine.
Because I like timing him out.
I'm gonna have to read up on this. I was looking at the widespread human evolution fraud documented. Sorry, and I was just looking at it, and again, like it keeps mentioning Neanderthals as being part of the conspiracy, which is really weird because like they're considered part of. They're just humans according to creationists. The Piltdown forgery was very clever. What is that? I don't think that's a real quote. I'm thinking that's a fake quote. Oh, wait. Oh, it comes from him. It literally just okay. So I'm sorry. I was looking at a quote that is attributed by oh, Peter, we can go back to the 3-person screen. There's a quote attributed to Ronald Clark, who's a paleoanthropologist, according to whatever his name is, Werner. Werner says that Ronald Clark said the Piltdown forgery was actually very clever. The Homo habilis STW53 forgery by Kernow and Tobias was stupid. That quote originates with this, though. This is the only place you can find it. If you look up the STW53, it's just Littlefoot. Or sorry, no, it's not. That's this STW573. Hold on, I just saw it. Oh, I was just looking at it. Hold on, STW50. Okay, 53. Here we go. It's okay. Sorry, it's one of the oldest Homo. It was discovered in 1976. Many paleoanthropologists recognize the fossil as representing a species of Homo, possibly Homo habilis. This has never been universally accepted. Many instead seeing it as a specimen of Australopithecus africanus. Nothing here about forgery, though. Because there's no forgery. Yeah. It's okay, so I that just seems bad right off the bat. Whatever. Feeling about the circumstances of the discovery of the Toomai skull. Fraudulently hiding the associated femur. Okay, so he's just making stuff up. Okay, so he's just making stuff up. Cool.
Were you expecting anything different?
No, I shouldn't have been. I know I set my hopes too high. Anyway, okay, well, we're past the 2-hour mark now. Thank you, Peter and Neslig. Thank you for coming, and thank you for hosting the show as always. I appreciate it. And
Anytime.
Thank you, everybody in the live chat for watching. And we will see everybody.
Almost everybody
Next
in the
Thursday.
live chat.
Okay, almost all of you. Yeah.
I do have one thing to say.
Okay.
This Saturday, I will be on Vandalia 1998's channel, discussing on the Big Bang and the origins of planet. I think people we have covered the earliest stages of the Big Bang, but now we'll be moving on to up until the first stars appeared. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you everybody for watching, and we will see all of you next time. Bye, everybody.
See you next time.